Welcome to the Women in Vinyl podcast with Jen DiEugenio, founder of Women in Vinyl, and contributor Robin Raymond. This podcast facilitates conversations with those working in the vinyl record industry to educate, demystify, and diversify the vinyl community.
I see the light at the end of the tunnel. Follow the sign to the edge of the trouble. Feeling the love from my sisters and brothers. Miracles happen when we love each other. And I just keep my mind on the feeling inside. I feel the good days are coming to rescue me. It's time to tear down the walls and set myself free. I'm gonna do what it takes to soothe my soul. Good days are coming, yes I know.
Thanks for listening to episode 43 of the Women in Vinyl podcast. You just heard Good Days Are Coming by songwriter and performer Stephanie Sakura off her new record, The Shine. Find more on the album and order the record at www.stephaniesakura.com/music. If you're listening to this in August, don't forget that we have our ongoing 5-year anniversary drive and raffle underway. And the day that this goes live is August 16th, which is our 5th birthday. Please join us in celebrating and donate today. No amount is too small. www.womeninvinyl.com/donate. On this episode, we're excited to have a conversation with Sara, Pete, and Alex Stillman, co-owners of Outta, a pressing plant and lathe cut studio in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Founded in the spring of 2020, we discuss the ups, downs, and reality of starting a record pressing plant. The Outta team are, simply put, record nerds who came together to open a factory whose primary purpose is to uplift and celebrate local and independent artists who kept the record industry alive through the decades, especially within their community. We really enjoyed discussing the other side of the coin with a newer plant's journey after hearing about United's longstanding place in our industry last month. Enjoy the episode. Well, welcome, Sara and Alex. We're so glad that you could join us. Been a long while.
I know it has been a long while.
We've been kicking this ball around for a little while. Yes, we have.
Yeah. Thanks for interviewing us.
Oh, hey, thanks. Thanks for being bold and doing what you guys do. It's awesome. How could we not? How could we?
Well, we feel like, once, if we weren't up and running yet, we were like, do we even get to be, are we actually in the industry yet? That kind of thing.
Yep.
We're still faking it until we make it. So we got a mostly warm reception at Making Vinyl. We had some people be skeptical, which I totally understand, but we're like, we have all the stuff. We have some training, we're doing it.
Yeah.
What else
we
do you
have
need?
no choice at this point.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Well, and to back up, why don't you tell our listeners who you are and what you are doing?
Alex, do you want to start?
Sure. I'm Alex Stillman, and I am one of the founders of Outta Record Pressing, along with Sara and her brother John, and basically joined the project because I heard a rumor that Sara was working on this, and I just was something that I knew that I really wanted to be a part of. So it just worked out, I guess. So worked in a record store for a long time and saw vinyl come back and saw how it was hurting some of the indie labels that we championed at my record store, and knew that there was a need in that market for for people to press their records. So that's what I'm motivated by.
Awesome.
And my name is Sara Pette. I am co-founder of Outta with Alex and my brother John as well. And Alex just said that. But anyway, I have been doing, well, I'll back up. In 2020, I was panicking because my job at the time was basically defunct in the pandemic. And it never truly came back. I was in pet care. And so after the pandemic, well, not after, but you know what I mean, like during like the last few years after the pandemic hit, it just never really came back from there. So I was freaking out back in 2020, being like, I need money, like I need to suddenly not have a job, you know, that kind of thing. So I asked my brother, like, do you want to start a record pressing business? And it all went from there. I figure, you know, like we the three of us know all about the backlog, the many years backlog, which sounds like it's clearing up now, but we still wanted to get in on it because we all love records and we all want to keep the medium alive. And yeah, we thought it might be fun. I know it's not always fun. I know there's a lot of troubleshooting, but I will say I did I took the boiler certification class that you have to take for, you know, to be able to run a boiler in the state of Minnesota. And I realized that every factory is like that, where like you're constantly working, the machines are always working and you're constantly fighting against them to like not break down or not like have a part wear out or something. So understanding that that's just factories made me feel a little better. If that makes any sense.
Oh yeah. That's the truth.
Yeah.
How did you decide on record pressing though? Were you just like, spin the giant wheel, or like, I've got a bunch of random things pinned on my dartboard and it's gonna be this one?
Well, I actually like was entertaining buying a coffee roaster and getting into coffee roasting a couple years ago with a friend who was a roaster at several very like prominent roasteries around the US, and now he's in Germany. And it wasn't really, I just liked coffee. It wasn't really something that I had any experience with. And I kind of dove deep into it and ruined coffee for myself because now I know what good coffee tastes like. And
oh no.
But it was something that I liked, but not something that I really truly understood. But records is something that, so when Sara said that this was another business that she was trying to start and I was trying to get into starting my own business, it just made a lot more sense because I know I don't need training on what a good record looks and sounds like. So it just seemed like a really natural type of like production to get into.
Yeah. And Sara, how did you decide that was it? You're like, hey, this one.
Quite honestly, the fact that there was a backlog for so many years made us think that it would be not easy money, but you know, was something that we like, there would be no short supply of demand. Sorry, that was confusing. There would be no let up on demand for many years.
Right.
So thinking that way, we sort of decided we would do that. My brother John he's a record collector, and I say that, and he's very, very serious about it. And he has his own website, and it shows all these discographies of things that he's collected over time. So he's very entrenched in the collector community. And as for me, I don't collect records as seriously, but I'm still a collector. I don't, you know, I DJ with my records, so they don't stay pristine all the time.
Well, we mentioned when we started that it had been a long time coming, and obviously are trying to open a pressing plant, and that is no easy feat. So maybe you could tell everybody a little bit about how you got to where you are now and some of the the road, I guess, to where you are currently?
Well, let's see. Like I said, we started thinking about this in 2020, and in 2021, that was when we really started thinking very seriously about it and doing as much research as we could about how we were going to do this. And we are not. Alex is a person with a manufacturing background, but my brother and I are not. So it felt like a lot of cold calls and people not knowing what we were trying to do because it's a niche thing. And contractors, random contractors that you call are like, what? Like, what actually are you trying to do? So there's lots of that. It's been interesting. We found that like actually like blue collar workers take us more seriously than white collar workers, which is like really interesting to us, but they've seen factories, so that makes sense. But let's see. One big obstacle is that we needed to move from our original building. So Alex, do you want to take it from here?
Yeah, so even though we had ordered the equipment that we thought was correct and so far is, but we haven't plugged it in yet, so who knows? And had it designed by an engineer that had designed pressing plants before, we still needed to have another mechanical firm or plumber essentially hook everything up in the space that we have. So our system was designed for our space very roughly, but not down to like, this is where the box is and this is where these pipes go. And so when we started trying to work with a mechanical firm, nobody would work with us because we had already designed and purchased all the equipment ourselves. So they can't sell us our boiler, they can't sell us our cooling tower. So it's kind of like showing up to a mechanic with the part you need replaced, and most of the time a mechanic won't do that. So that was really difficult. And then once we finally found somebody, a master plumber that wanted to work with us and seemed to not just like ghost us or give us a go away number, we found that the utilities and just the logistics of building out the building that we were renting for over a year was just not physically possible without just major investments in a building that we don't own. So it didn't make any sense financially for us to stay there. And we didn't even know if it was going to work. So we ended up just moving as fast as we could, which wasn't actually that fast at the end of the day. It took like 4 or 5 months because we found essentially a really perfect building, but of course it also has its own things that we have to figure out. Like, it had most of the utility needs that we needed seemingly, but when the snow melted, they were different.
Oh no.
And we had to get a permit from the city for production because our building was zoned residential, even though it was a 16,000 square foot concrete block warehouse with a loading dock and no rooms. So we had to, do the whole thing, bring it up to council chambers, city planning commission and city council chambers, public comment, presenting for a vote. It passed with no problem, but it was a lot of bureaucracy to go through just to get the building. But we did it pretty fast.
We're lucky.
It only took 2 months, which was not crazy for bringing something to city council vote. So yeah.
Have you guys had like politicians kind of like in your corner, like helping you out, like guiding you? Or like, this is good for Minneapolis, this is a good thing, we want this around? And then there's probably people on the opposite side being like, damn you hippies, rah, rah, rah.
Yeah, luckily the neighborhood that we're moving into is one of the smallest neighborhoods in the city and one of the most diverse, and there aren't very many employers in the neighborhood. It's mostly residential. So we went to a neighborhood association meeting, which we did not have to do for our permit, but we did that for just because we wanted to introduce ourselves to the community. And I live only like, I don't even know, like 200 feet away from the building.
Whoa,
So it's
wow.
that's
so
great.
it's like my neighborhood, and I've lived there for a long time, and our neighborhood is really community driven. So when I knew that I needed to bring something to City Planning Commission, I already knew people that I could talk to help us with that. So
Oh, that's great.
yeah.
That's great.
So it's important
Oh,
to me to be in the neighborhood that, you know, and then our old building was in Sarah's neighborhood too. It's the same idea of just opening a business in our community to create more community.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Didn't you say it was a mascot shop or something?
So it was
Yeah,
it was a mascot factory with
Oh my God,
an
amazing.
it was so Alex and I have both we both had seen the inside of the mascot factory in different like contexts. But yeah, it's like definitely creepy. As you can imagine. It's cool. But yeah, imagine like mascot heads like stacked on top of like shelves going up, and yeah, it's pretty wacky.
fabric, reams of fabric
Yeah,
everywhere, and
yeah.
it was
It
pretty
was
crazy.
Alex's
Like,
neighbor.
yeah, it was my neighbor owned it maybe like 15 years ago. I don't know what happened to him. He was quite old at the time, and I know they were like the largest producers of mascot heads outside of Japan for a while. So it's just really, really goofy, and just kind of just makes so much sense that we're also like opening such a like kind of like a wingnut, like goofy type business in space, and in
Totally.
like this kind of really like creative area of town. And there's a lot of like puppet and mask theater. One of the only other large businesses in the neighborhood is a puppet and mask theater. So it's like it's pretty
Weird.
cool area. Yeah.
So crazy.
So
Mhm.
we have other hippies. We have other hippies in our vicinity that like I think are into the idea.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the one thing, right? Like, keep it weird, and that's awesome. Like,
Mhm.
that'll keep that will endure. That's the best. I mean, I kind of wish that was like your first choice, because then you could have been like Mascot Records or something. That would have been amazing.
Yeah.
You have an imprint like
Yeah.
mascot,
Oh,
Yeah.
record.
That would
Yeah.
be awesome.
Good idea. Good idea.
Nice.
Hey, you can have that one for free. So I know that the burning question for everybody, and like you can totally the podcast does not go live to air or anything, so you can tell me to go pound sand. You can tell me to fuck right off, whatever you want. How did the funding work? Because I know that that's going to be everybody's big question. How did you guys get funding? Did you self-fund it? Did you find somebody that was like, yeah, fuck, let's do this? Or like, yeah, what's the story? How is it working? Because this shit is not cheap.
Yeah, and
Way more expensive than I
we
thought.
got some bad numbers when we started too. So, you know, we budgeted, we gave ourselves a lot of room in our
Yeah.
budget when we started.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, especially just the mechanical design and install is just 10 times what we estimated, because we were going by like pre-pandemic construction costs. So and just had no idea that like an architectural design firm is $500 an hour.
Yeah.
Mm.
And
So
what presses did you wind up getting too?
We have a new built duplex system, so 2 presses in one system. Yeah. Back oh god.
And they're new ones, right?
Yeah, they're new builds.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
awesome.
And they're sorry, I didn't hear you quite well.
Oh, sure.
They're manual presses. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we self-funded.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So we're self-funded, and then with a loan as well. But we don't have any outside of investors outside of me, Sarah, and John.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
And
That's
for now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good way to keep it in the family, man, and like keep your vision and yourselves on track for sure. Like,
Mhm.
congratulations.
We're hoping that
Exactly.
gives us an advantage, uh, because at this point, we're just trying to break even and make it work, and we don't need that return on investment necessarily anytime soon.
Yeah.
So hoping
what-
that can, yeah, hoping that's the way to go.
Well, so what do you offer now and what do you hope to offer? Because you also have a lathe or two, right?
Yes. Yeah. So we, I believe you know Mike Dixon. Pretty sure he's been on the podcast, right?
Oh, yeah.
We
Yeah.
know Mike Dixon. Don't we ever?
We're sending someone to his
Shout
camp.
out to Mike.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So Alex, I went to that camp, and that's how we got into lathe cutting. Alex has taken to it much more than I. I think I got overwhelmed by it. I still want to learn it, but it's intimidating.
Which is
It's like,
fine because you're the press
Yeah.
operator. So
exactly. I'll do that, and you
You
can do
can be
lathes.
that,
And
Sarah. Trust me.
yeah. So as for what we're offering, I mean, part of why we got into lathe cutting outside of camp was we wanted to provide an opportunity to do short runs. So, now with lathe cutting, you can make one of one thing, as you know. And so that's sort of because we want to serve our music scene in the Twin Cities. A lot of people who haven't been able to press records anytime recently just because of the increasing cost and increasing time commitment that you have to put in for, to wait. Those people have been able to, make really short runs for their tour. And it's not, some people aren't always into the idea of it, but they understand. It seems like the people we know understand that it's a long, expensive process to just get a record pressed.
Yeah.
So we just wanted to sort of bridge that gap, especially while we're not up yet. Like, it's a nice way to like market ourselves and sort of demonstrate that we understand how quality works in a number of, mixed media.
Yep.
That's great.
No, I love it. It's great.
So do you
yeah, it was
intend
never. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to
It
say,
was-
do you intend to do short run pressing as well?
Yes. So I haven't decided yet, but I'm thinking I'm sure people will laugh if I say 50, but I'm like, maybe. I mean, it would be a pain, but we'd probably charge much more. It's like more if you do a shorter run. That's just like how the money works. But more realistically, it'll probably be like 250 at most. But I personally want to do such short runs as 50 or 50 or 100, because that's like, I think that would fulfill a lot of people's needs, and there's a market there for it. So so it's really just about how annoyed I want to get changing dampers and like just like doing all the prep work, like how annoying am I willing to make this job for myself, so
yeah,
there for 1,000 seconds to do 50 and be like, okay, and now I'll spend 30 minutes changing stampers. Great.
well, and we have the manual new build, so we're hoping, and we have creative backgrounds, so we're hoping that we can, come up with some cool designs, and we have multiple extruders, and so if we're doing a small run and it's super specialty color situation, that's kind of what
Oh, hell yeah. I'd
excited
rather
to
I
do.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd rather have a manual press all day, every day than have an auto. Like, yeah. Like flex your ability. You know what I mean? Like, make it special, like put your stamp on it. That's exactly, that's one of the reasons that we love Heath so much too. Like, Heath has completely changed the medium as we know it for everybody.
it's amazing
Yeah.
being able to do.
For those of you following along at home, that's Wax Mage Records. Wax Mage.
If you don't know by now,
Yeah, you don't know by now. Start at
why are you here?
Start it up if you want. Your homework is.
We're so stoked to do color vinyl and just all the patterns. Like, one obstacle that I found really interesting was just how fast you run out of PVC.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, we have to be really good about like using ERPs and stuff like that to make sure we don't run out. And I assume Jen, you can speak to like needing to do that for like planning out jobs and that kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, knowing how much you have to order for a job and then knowing like factoring in your waste for that as well, you know, to be able to account for what you need to throw out during QC and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to pick both of y'all's brains when you're not interviewing us. But anyway.
Yeah.
So, Alex, as a fellow lathe cutter, where are you kind of tapping out at? Are you running like, are you doing like mostly 7s? Are you doing like smaller runs, like 15s, 20s, 25s, 50s? Are you doing 100 runs? What are you doing?
Yeah, I think we kind of max out at 50. I think once we get 50 of something, there's more and more problems, and it's hard to make that to break even, because even if you had a great day today cutting, tomorrow you come back and you're like, why is this not even touching the record when I put the stylus down? What the heck? Yeah. So yeah, and we're doing a 10-inch order right now of 50, and it's just that's the limit. I don't think it's, once you get into 10 inches, it's gets kind of rough, even though it sounds fine. The mix is really good, and I don't know. So that's my limit. They wanted 75. I don't think we're gonna get them 75. Stick with 50.
Are you a producer, engineer, or broadcaster? Do you want to be? Either way, Nugent Audio is for you. Nugent creates innovative, intuitive, professional audio tools for high-end music producers, post-production engineers, and broadcasters. Their products make it easier to deliver better quality, save time, and reduce cost. As a Women in Vinyl podcast listener, you get 20% off your next Nugent Audio purchase using code WOMENINVINYL. Go to nugentaudio.com/womeninvinyl. And now, back to the episode.
I'm sure people who listen to your podcast have much more of a clue about the processes involved, but like, you know, like if you're just listening to this podcast for the first time, please know that none of it is easy.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of a good segue into, you know, the next question, which was like, what advice would you give to someone that's trying to open a pressing plant now? Because I think we heard a lot at Making Vinyl about the oversaturation of the market and like a continued message of like, maybe stop opening pressing plants. And obviously you all are in the middle of it. What would you say to someone that wants to open one now?
I wouldn't say just don't, because that's what everyone else says. But I would say, like, make 100% sure you want to get into this, because everybody deals with these like problems that are just like the most bonkers problems you've ever heard. So like, make sure you're an innovative person who can handle the stress of something breaking or something going wrong, because if that's not you, then maybe this job isn't for you. So I think that's what I would say.
Yeah.
What about you, Alex?
Yeah. And yeah, if you're thinking about building your own plant, make sure you know exactly who your clients are going to be. And if you're just like, if you don't know specific labels or people that need your service, and you just want to get in on it because you think it's cool and it's hip, and you make other plastic stuff or whatever, I think it's gonna be difficult for you to get clients. So just make sure you know exactly who you're trying to serve.
I think that's good advice. I mean, I feel like when everything's going wrong and everything's so frustrating at the end of the day, like if you're not a vinyl head and you don't like love records, you could check out really easily.
Yeah.
Like I think we all just like really love them to be able to keep persevering some days.
I 100% ditto.
Yeah. I feel like once you have like when you have a certain population that you're trying to serve, or like a relationship with that community, like you guys are like, we want to serve the Twin Cities music community. I'm like, I want to move back to Calgary and like foster the community that grew me as a musician too. I like once you have that as an extra motivator, it's a little bit easier too, right? Where you're like, gotta solve this problem. Jim needs these records because he's going on tour and we really love Jim and he's really rad. You know what I mean? Like, and we all, that's one of the other things that I think is so great about having these little niche pockets of people hyper specializing and having a vision and full control of what they're doing, is because you can do that and you can execute that and you can own it all and you can be a little bit more fueled by it, right? But you don't have to worry about a major swooping in and being like, oh, hey guys, well, we need you to do 10,000 of this. Okay. And you're like, yeah, you know what? Jim's record's up next. So sorry, we're doing
We love Jim.
Yeah. Jim.
Yeah. So that's exactly, I mean, that was another reason for getting into this. We had some inkling prior to doing any of our own deeper research that major, like part of the reason people who are independent artists or labels can't, there's a logjam for them is because majors will swoop in. So knowing that, we thought we could sort of do the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Or just choose not to work with majors too. I mean, we're not up and running yet. Like, we don't know what it's going to look like. We haven't said no, never any majors ever, but our capacity just isn't that anyway. So it feels like it would be a bad match. So we're not too worried about that at all, which is great. And yeah, Robin, like you said, it's like we have all these people we already know who we know want to do records and we know have been sort of shafted by the industry for like, 10 years or so. We want to serve those people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of those labels here in Minneapolis that people don't even know, like maybe are from here or realize that they make like 20 to 50,000 records a year, but they still, when they try to go to their old standby presses that they've been using for 25 years, they're no longer prioritized. So we don't really have to look very far for clients.
Well, I mean, what else is there to do in Minneapolis, right?
Yeah.
I think the way you're approaching it is super smart. And it's why I think plants your size that are opening up with that sort of mentality will survive through all of this. Yeah.
I think that's the way that the industry kind of needs to pivot, to be honest. Like, it's, you serve your little constituency or your community, you have those one-to-one relationships with bands. People that are steeped in those industries are going to be the ones that are going to be successful because they have a stake in it. You know what I mean? Like, in 5 years when you guys have like 3 presses and you're killing it, you're like, oh, hey, like, let's throw a festival or whatever, you know what I mean? So that you can put people on stages, you're giving them numerous ways to make money. It's not just, it's not just we're making plastic for you. It's we're creating opportunities for you to go make money in other markets because now you have stuff to sell or whatever. Now we want to bring other bands in. Maybe you start a label. You do have Mascot as the imprint, like the options when you are the architects of your own thing are infinite.
It was interesting entering the industry and noticing that there's a lot of people at odds with each other. And I know that's sort of the older generation, and the younger generations are starting to be like, we can't do this without each other, so we should probably get together. But yeah, it's like it's been interesting to see that, and I'm glad that it's pivoting towards the more like let's do this together model. I'm excited to see what that looks like in the next however many decades we're in this business. So, but I am so glad. So when I was in the Southeast pressing, that's when I found out about Women in Vinyl. It was your first, I don't think it was your first conference, but it was, or not conference, but like panel of people. But it was one of your first, I think. But this was the one in 2021. And I just remember feeling really inspired by the people who spoke, among which, you two were. But I remember Karen from Gold Rush. I remember Amanda from Long Island.
Yep.
I'm like, there's too much stuff for me to list for Amanda. But Amanda from Long Island.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty inspiring to be welcomed into this part of the community. And I don't think men in the vinyl music industry, I don't think they have something that's the same. They don't have like men in vinyl, because that's just what it was.
Although
forever.
some of them want that.
Oh
Right.
my God.
Of course. So I guess they're free to do that if they want. But that said, I'm just like really grateful for you two, and for your organization, because we do feel like welcomed and embraced.
Thank you.
It's nice to be told that we're doing it even when we haven't pressed a record ourselves yet, that kind of thing. So
Good, you'll get there. So I'm sure you guys all have sustainability on your brain while you're making a new plant and looking at things and plastic and all the things that we do. Do you think that where we are with the environment and within the scope and the business as it is, do you think that those two things are sustainable independent of each other and together? Do you think we can keep going at the rate that we're going? Making records all the time with the amount of PVC that we have?
Right. I guess I am, one reason I was reluctant to get into this was the plastic situation. I know of one company that is trying to make a more sustainable product. I guess I don't know that much about it. You might know more than I do. But we are absolutely into exploring other options. We obviously have to start with PVC, which is really unfortunate. But we are also committed to sustainability in terms of perhaps carbon offsets in the near future. We don't want to be garbage people to the planet. So we'll recycle all the PVC we can. And then I'm sure there's people out there who are still like, no regrind. I'm sure you hear about it. Yeah.
And they can pay for that.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want brand new PVC? Here's your markup. Here's your audio file tax. Boom.
Oh, we also make a bunch of polycarbonate trash with our lathe embossed records, which I have been hoarding and trying to come up with creative things to use them for, which we've only really come up with making a giant chandelier for our warehouse.
Oh.
Clear discs. So.
I know that we could talk forever, but we are coming up on our time. So I want to make sure we leave enough for you all to answer our difficult question, which is, if you could make a 7-inch, which you can, with any song of your choosing from any time, any artist on the A side and any on the B side, what would it be?
And each one of you has to choose a side, because you can't make 2 records. You can only make 1. You have to choose the A.
You really narrowed it down.
I'm increasing the difficulty.
This is tough, and I also anticipated a question like it. I'm like, I should like my record collection.
Like really trying to make it a thing, like a heart, like it's thing. It's the question.
Oh, I love it. I'm just gonna go out there and say I'm gonna be really annoying and put a live track on either A or B side. Alex and I can flip a coin.
Yep.
There's a song that's just called I'm All Right, that there's many I'm all rights or all rights, or there's just so many, that word is used in rock and roll all the time.
Yeah.
So but it's a live track on his Beach album, which was I think it was the first live recording ever that actually was successful of a full band and like offsite, like remote. And it's from 1965, I think. So yeah, I'm All Right by Bo Diddley live.
Love it. Alex, you're up.
With the classic B-side,
Yes.
instrumental B-side that went gold in the summer of '68, The Horse by Cliff Nobles.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're record nerds.
I love it.
Turns out.
I love how decisive it was. Too.
Yeah,
Oh,
that was great.
I put a giant White Castle burger on top of that one, because that's what we like from Minneapolis.
Yum yum.
Yum, yum. White Castle forever. I mean, I've never had White Castle until I was in Minneapolis, and it was everything that I ever imagined and wanted.
It's awesome.
I was sad that I missed you guys at Making Vinyl. I hope that I will have the chance and opportunity to come out there and we can all hang. And
that would be lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, especially when you have your big grand opening. We'll come there with tiny scissors and help you cut the thing.
Like tiny scissors, like
Yeah.
You know, with like the tiny hands that like just fit on the and then we'll just use tiny scissors that'll work on that too. That'd be great. Like I said,
Awesome.
I'm an oddball today. I apologize.
Well, thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. And I'm so glad we were able to make it happen. And utilize Robin and I anytime if we, want to have just another hangout at some point about other stuff. More than happy to. So
You guys need
Oh,
tire.
that sounds great.
Call me. I'm happy to cheerlead and
that's awesome.
Remind you how fucking awesome you are.
Thank you so much. You guys are fucking awesome.
Yes.
One last thing, I loved, and Robin, it's sad you weren't there, but I was so glad to go to the Women in Vinyl meetup.
Yeah.
We I don't know, we had a lot of fun and met people, and like I lawn bowled.
all right, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again.
Thank
Well,
you.
let's talk soon.
Okay,
Yes.
thank
Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Don't forget that we have our ongoing 5-year anniversary drive and raffle. It's underway now, and the day that this goes live is August 16th, which is our 5th birthday. Please join us in celebrating and donate today. No amount is too small. www.womeninvinyl.com/donate.
Thanks for joining us on the Women in Vinyl podcast. You can join our ever-growing list of sponsors. Other record labels: Selector, Couple Design, Eargasm, Groove Washer, Glowtronics, New Gen Audio, and Vinyl Revolution Record Show. And thanks for sponsoring the show. Hey, as always, you can join our conversation on Instagram or send us a note at media@womeninvinyl.com. Clock us, send us info. If you have a question, we got the answer, or we'll find it. We won't lie to you. And check out womeninvinyl.com for past episodes, the store, the job board, and the library of resources. Don't forget to like and subscribe and give us a review on your favorite podcast delivery method. You can also contribute to furthering our mission at patreon.com/womeninvinyl. Hey, guess what? This episode, 45 minutes. You know there was more. You want more? You get more go to patreon.com and you can get more. And you'll find all the B-sides, the deep cuts, and the amazing extras, including longer episodes, and contribute to the creation of scholarships and educational opportunities to further the demystification, the infiltration of more women and non-binary identifying humans into the vinyl making space, decreasing those turnaround times every week. Yeah, we love your records. We want you to love them too. womeninvinyl.com.
This episode has been brought to you by Women in Vinyl and Red Spade Records. Thank you for listening. Please remember to subscribe, and you can always contact us directly by visiting www.womeninvinyl.com.